There is so much talk about women's hormonal health, which is great. But even though it's a bigger part of the conversation, most women are left even more confused about what it means for them and what to do about it, which is not so great. This confusion ends now. An award-winning German nutrition scientist created a powerful herbal formula called Hormone Harmony, which combines 12 powerful adaptogens into one single capsule. Each of these ingredients is carefully selected based on scientific evidence, and it's been proven effective in clinical studies for women of various ages and hormonal profiles. And Happy Mammoth, the company that produces Hormone Harmony, is famous for its zero-compromise policy. No GMOs, artificial fillers or flavors, or any other junk. Only science-backed ingredients in amounts that are clinically proven. The company surveyed over 1,500 women to see how Hormone Harmony helped them, and the results are mind-blowing. 86% of women started losing weight, 77% say it improved their mood, and 100% said they're feeling like themselves again. Hormone Harmony has over 50,000 raving reviews from women all over the world, with 98% of them saying they'd gladly recommend it to their friends and family. For a limited time, you can get 15% off on your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use the code HAPPYME, HAPPYME, at checkout. That's code HAPPYME at happymammoth.com for 15% off your entire first order.
New Vitamin Water Zero Sugar Pineapple Passion Fruit is packed with vitamins, just like the amount of peas we packed in that sentence. It's packed like your tote bag, the one you stole from your ex, or your overpriced half a studio apartment, or extra rushed rush hour traffic. Packed like your calendar, triple booked at 5, of course. Grab a Vitamin Water. Did we mention it's packed with vitamins?
Have you heard of Olivia, the travel company for lesbians and LGBTQ+ women? You know what they say. Life is short and the world is wide. And when you're a lesbian or LGBTQ+ woman, you want to be able to go on vacation, have some fun, and be yourself. Olivia Travel creates full takeovers of their cruise, resort, riverboat, and adventure vacations, so you can relax and be completely yourself. Olivia also provides the entertainment, bringing comedians and musicians from within our community. Traveling by yourself? No problem. Olivia has a robust solos program so you can travel independently, together. Single, coupled, or in a group, you'll meet amazing LGBTQ+ women who come from all walks of life yet have so much in common. Join the thousands of Olivians who travel to bucket list destinations all over the world. It's life-changing to be in the majority on your own vacation. Discover Olivia for yourself at olivia.com today. Welcome back to Cruising. This is Sarah Gabrielli, and today I'll be sharing with you the last in a long line of interviews recorded during last year's Women's Week in P-Town. Michelle Axelson is the owner of Womencrafts, a long-standing intersectional feminist bookshop, the only one of its kind in P-Town, and one of only 13 feminist bookstores left in the country. Womencrafts has been lesbian-owned and operated since 1976, and it's become a staple for queer people in P-Town. Michelle started working at Womencrafts back in 2011, bought it in 2015, and has become quite the pillar of the P-Town community herself. She seemed to be on the pulse of everything going on in town and pretty well known in most circles. She booked author panels and readings at Womencrafts throughout the week. I noticed there was a 12-step women's meeting there almost every morning. And she organized, among other things, the rally after the Women's March. I came by the shop early one morning to interview her before opening. We set up in the back, surrounded by women-centered books and art, and she shared not only the story of Womencrafts, but that of how she found her own place in P-Town.
I was a lesbian in Boston. I grew up in the Boston area, but as an adult was living and working in Boston and would come down to P-Town. I think the first time I came down as a lesbian, I came to see a Melissa Ferrick concert during Baby Dyke weekend. And that time I came alone. And I knew I wanted to go to 2 stores. I wanted to come to Womencrafts and I wanted to come to Recovering Hearts. I worked in the addiction field, and Recovering Hearts was a store. I think I told you about Leslie McGrath, who owned Somewhere in Boston, the lesbian bar in Boston. And she would say her tagline was, "I got you drunk in Boston and sober in P-Town." And so she owned this store, Recovering Hearts, that I would go in and buy things for my office, like daily readers and affirmations, and they had all types of 12-step stuff and just spiritual stuff. So I would go there and buy things for my office, but I had heard about Womencrafts and I wanted to come here.
How had you heard about it?
It's a good question. I think just in the ether. I think like the way I talk about it now is as if I know, but I think that like I describe it as all lesbians carry a passport and we have certain places we need to get stamps, and Womencrafts is one of them. And so I think just somehow I knew that. And maybe it was advertising from Bay Windows in Boston, the gay newspaper or something, but I did know. And so I walked down here, and Womencrafts is within our community famous for having a dyke discount. And I think I might have known about that. But I looked around, and the only thing I could come up with to buy was something for my mom, who's not gay, but she was starting a new journey of herself. So there was something, a positive affirmation that I liked. And I was very shy. And, it's interesting. I watch people have a relationship to this shop and what level of bravery it requires depending on people's level of outness and comfort with themselves. And when I look back at that story, I realize I had it too, because I didn't buy something for myself. And I don't remember getting the dyke discount. And that's something that, I don't necessarily pass as an obvious lesbian, particularly then, maybe. And they may have asked me and I blocked it out, but I don't remember that. But my mom still has the thing, and it was the first time as an adult I remember coming.
Do you know around
what
how
year?
old? Yeah.
Right around 2000, 2001. And I would have been 23, 24.
Are you saying you were semi-closeted at the time, or sort of not totally comfortable with yourself?
I think probably not totally comfortable. I didn't come out in college. I graduated college in 99, and I didn't come out to friends and family until at least the next, so in the 2000s. So even the story I just told about Womencrafts probably didn't happen until 2002, okay. 2003. But yes, when I came out to myself in college, I came out really loudly to myself when I fell in love with somebody. And that's how I came out to people, is I didn't say I'm a lesbian. I said I'm in love with so-and-so.
Yeah. That's always a nice way to be able to come out.
Yeah. I
didn't publicly come out for the longest time for sort of that reason, or just I had no one to bring home. I had no reason to be hey everyone, this is what's up.
Yeah.
And I hated that. I really was this is so unintentional on my end, being in the closet.
Right.
I'm happy for everyone to know.
Right.
Anyway, yeah, I
relate to that, and I relate to that as somebody who, part of the journey of coming out, I love looking through older dyke books because I love it and hate it and feel sad about it, because often when it talks about lesbian sexuality, it talks about trauma and abuse related to men. And I do not like attaching the two, because there's a suggestion of a correlation there that I don't believe is true. I think most women have been abused by men. But with lesbians, we're asked, is this just because you're afraid of men? Is this because somebody hurt you? But that also is true about me. I'm a survivor. And I think I identified more politically and socially as a lesbian before I did sexually. People attach our identity so much to the sex of it, but when we know, we know. And what we know about ourselves is not solely related to who we're attracted to. It's our whole identity. So I think not having a person standing next to you is hard, because I did come out then as having been in love, and then I was in a relationship that was very private, and I had not spent much of my life. I'm married now, but people knew me single for a long, long time. And so coming out kind of was continual, because, my friends had kids and I'm an important person in their kids' life, and Michelle's a lesbian, Michelle's gay, Michelle owns Womencrafts, but that didn't look like anything to them, and until or when there were people standing next to me. So it's complicated.
Yeah.
Well, our identity is ours. It's not conditional on another person. And I think what you're doing in the world is obviously queer. And what I came to know about me and the relationship the kids in my life have to me is, this is a queer identity. This is a dyke. This is a lesbian, whether or not it's related to anything else. And so I do believe that became known.
Do you love having it all wrapped up in your identity, though? Like being like,
Yes.
this is my job. Like,
Yes.
it's so easy to come out. Someone's like, oh, what do you do? I'm like, yeah, it's a lesbian podcast.
Yeah, no, and I think people talk about all the different times people have to come out in their life, and living in Provincetown makes that easier. Certainly
Totally.
owning the shop makes that easier.
Yeah, you could potentially just say you live in P-Town, and then it's kind of like that does the work for you.
That's
too.
a give, right? Like, and there's all these subtle signals. And when I lived in Boston as a single person, I don't think I look incredibly femme or heterosexual, but I don't have some of the telltale signs of a lesbian in the 90s and early 2000s. Maybe I'm ahead of the game in our conversation, but when I think of the dyke bars, by the time I was out in Boston, it wasn't such a thing. There weren't these designated hangouts because it was safe and free and it was headed towards marriage equality. So I didn't have the things I have, and the privilege and safety we have in this world can't be denied. But I crave and I don't want to use the word jealousy. I envy the women who found each other in more secretive spaces because they needed each other than they were each other's people. I'm grateful for straight girlfriends in my life and community around me and not losing many people when I came out, but I didn't need to only know lesbians. I didn't need to like drive into the city and find people and then have these secret things. And there's such community around that. And for a lot of people who don't live in Provincetown, Provincetown is that. It's like one big gay bar for them. So maybe I take that for granted that I have it here. But there's something special about affinity groups. And when I was coming out, that wasn't easily attainable to me. And so I would look around and be like, might my person be, or who might find me, in addition to anything I was doing about my own level of self-consciousness or self-hatred and thinking, well, no one's going to pick me. I just didn't know where to be picked. And even like I had been to an intergenerational conversation, I think at the Arlington Street Church in Boston, and these older women like had no interest. Somebody finally said to me, well, you're the straight best friend. I'm like, well, you.
Oh my
like,
God.
Why? Like, no, I'm not. When I first started working in the shop, I moved to P-Town in 2010, and I started working in the shop in 2011. And apparently I was behind the counter enough that a regular customer pulled the owner aside and said, when did you hire a straight girl? And she's like, well, first of all, she's not. And second of all, what does that mean? And why wouldn't that be okay?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, there's some policing. So it's like being visible. And so like the first time I went to a gay club, I went to the Gap.
Yeah.
I bought a pair of khakis. I bought a shirt in the men's section and these like really stupid shoes that I wouldn't have worn. I have humongous boobs. I can't wear a man's t-shirt and look normal. It didn't feel right. I don't like khakis. I just was trying to find a dyke uniform, and I looked like I was going to be a lesbian gym teacher, not going to a club, because like I was playing like what does a lesbian look like in my head.
You were dressing up for
and
Halloween.
I looked like an idiot. I was dressing up for Halloween. I was in drag.
Seriously, that is terrible that people have made you feel like that so much about the way you present.
Yeah.
It's just wild to me.
Yeah. And some of it's my own prejudice or assumption of like, what does a lesbian look like? And like, really, I had like this sporty spice person in my head that I'm also not that, you know? So finding freedom to exist within a spectrum of a community, you know, is a journey too.
Well, it's so interesting what you bring up about like the early 2000s. It's well after the height of the lesbian bar and kind of all of these underground communities, which is in the 70s and 80s, but also before social media and dating apps.
Yep.
And before the past couple years of this resurgence of lesbian spaces.
Yeah.
So that's got to be like the driest
I was going to say it's
ever.
a wasteland.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, Kristen Porter was a lesbian promoter in Boston at the time, and there were dyke nights, different places and different dance clubs or venues, and there were a few nights in Somerville, but they were nights. And I think people who knew the scene better knew that. I also don't really drink. I grew up in an alcoholic family. I'm not an alcoholic, but drunk people make me uncomfortable. So that wasn't the most comfortable place for me. But in my fantasy of what somewhere was in Boston, Leslie McGrath owned with Anne McGuire, and Anne McGuire was a lawyer and an activist and worked with government in Boston. Like, I could have sat and hung out. I could have played pool. I could have sat up and tried to just hear people talk and hang out. That's what I wish I had. I don't wish I had raunchy hookups dancing in the corner. But the people.
Well, yeah. Obviously, it came with so much hardship.
Yeah.
But to just have this one place where everyone in town, and even at lesbian bars that are open now, like the modern day ones, a lot of people say, this is the gathering place. Something happens in the community. You don't really even have to talk about it. It's just like, okay, we're going to meet at YBR, and you just do after like a funeral or a wedding or whatever it is. And you're like everything to each other because you have to be.
You have to be.
Which is beautiful and also scary.
So the way you just described, like, you don't have to ask, you just go. I am grateful that Womencrafts feels that way. And that does happen here. Like the way I describe it, definitely like national political events when they happen. People come here. When RBG died, people brought pastries like they were coming to sit Shiva, just hung out. And because we're all in the room together, conversation, so what do? We light candles. And I have what I call my like protest go bag. I have candles and votives and signs and posters and a bullhorn and postcards and, you know, a ready-made protest or / vigil. So like RBG died, but it was from talking to people in the room that were like, yeah, we're going to go stand in front of town hall and light candles and people are going to do whatever they want to do. But that happens and that foments because people are in the room together. And the same thing was when the Brett Kavanaugh confirmation hearing was happening. That first day, I ended up going home when Christine Blasey Ford was testifying because I wanted to be alone and pay attention to it. And so many people in my life reached out and were so upset. And the next day he was going to testify. And so people were saying, we need to be together. I'm like, okay, like I don't have a TV, but we can watch on my laptop and people can come through the day. And so people came and watched in the shop. That would have happened too at a bar maybe that was open, you know, daytime hours. And when people in the community have died and when, so I'm talking about sad things, but when marriage equality passed nationally, two different people who don't really know me pass through the door with bottles of champagne and what are we doing? And like in a town this small, all it takes is for one person to say 5 o'clock town hall. As somebody, a gay male friend of mine, I heard do an interview and say, like, it's so magic. People just know to show up in town hall. And I said to him later, I'm like, that's so great that you think that, but there are a few people that actually had to do work to make it happen. And so, like, it is true. This is the type of community, like, I do get to have that feeling and maybe help create that feeling of what I'm saying I missed not having for myself.
Mm-hmm. What do you know about what this place was like over the years before you got here?
They opened in 1976, and their goal was to feature art, music, books by lesbians.
Who is the original owner?
Carol and Joey. The truth is that there were two women who started before Sasha and Alex, and they owned it for a really short period of time and kind of didn't, one was a woodworker and didn't really want to do it anymore, but Carol and Joey were their best customers. And apparently one day said to them, do you want to buy it? And so Carol and Joey changed their life from New York and moved down to P-Town full time and took over the shop and made it what it is today.
Oh, wow.
And so in 1976, lots of women bookstores grew in that time, probably bars too, and Mishfest started then. And so there was a very deliberate, almost, or maybe deliberately separatist feel, and it just became this safe haven. And it's a place that like literally physically in this room, people have come out to themselves and to someone for the first time. To be on the receiving end of somebody's coming out moment is such an honor and something that no one who has worked here through the years takes lightly. I know people that came out here and then never told anybody for a decade. And I know people that knew that if they came into this room, they could say out loud they were a lesbian by asking for the dyke discount or saying yes to the dyke discount. I know an author who was going through a hard time and her friends are like, come with us, we're going for the weekend to P-Town. And they brought her to the shop. And she stood where we are sitting right now and looked at all the books and was starting to cry. And her friends are like, we're going to sit outside. And she was just piling up books and books and books. And she came to the counter, and Jane, who so many people love who worked here, Jane was like the bartender here. She's the norm.
Okay,
that would have been Jane.
Is she around?
She's passed away.
Oh.
Yeah. Jane Saul, she's awesome. And short and little and welcomed everybody and treated everybody like family. She gave me her photo albums before she died, and it's all of customers. So this woman, by the time she comes to the counter, it's like sinking in. And then Jane asks her, would you like the dyke discount? And she said yes. And she went outside and said to her friends, I'm a lesbian. And they said, we know. That's why we brought you here. And she's now a lesbian author and performer. Her name is Faye Jacobs.
Oh my God. You know, that's why we brought you here. That's so sweet.
Right?
So it's really the Dyke discount that does that for people, because it's like you don't have to initiate it. It's like you're asked that, and then you have to decide if you want to save a little money and come out.
So with that, Leah Delaria, I don't know if this was in the 80s or the early 90s, one of her albums has a joke that she would tell about, you know, Womencrafts offers the Dyke discount, and what would it take a straight woman to admit to be considered a dyke? Like, how cheap do you have to be, or how willing do you have to be? Would you be a dyke for 15%? Would you be a dyke for 20%? You know, all of that. And I found the original handbook for employees, which is also funny because imagining doing that. God. And one of it says, we offer the dyke discount to every woman. And in parentheses, it says, including and maybe particularly straight women, because they can have the chance to be included in our, this isn't their language, this is mine, but I understand the sentiment to be, they can opt in. The default in this room is lesbian.
I love that so much.
Yeah. And so I will just be honest in saying we do not say it out loud as much anymore, because before I came to the shop was threatened with a lawsuit about discrimination.
Because of the Dyke discount.
Would you like to guess who had a problem with the Dyke discount? White man.
Oh, yeah.
Heterosexual white man. So when I started working here, I was cautioned that if anybody asked for the Dyke discount, they could receive it.
That is so sad, because what a beautiful thing that was.
Yeah. And then, like, I would say mid-90s was a pretty, like, wealthy and positive time for the most mainstream gay people. And so Provincetown and white people benefited. There was a wealth growth here, and shopping was good, and Womencrafts really sold a lot of jewelry, was known for like coming and buying commitment bands and gold rings and things like that, things you wouldn't necessarily go to Kay Jewelers or Tiffany's yet. But in Provincetown, you were feeling pretty good. My major in college was peace studies. I was a social worker. I am an activist. And so I arrive in the shop post-marriage in Massachusetts, but before marriage nationally, and all of the other fights we've had since then. And so everything about kind of how the shop is now feels like returning to the roots of this is an activist space, and that's our imperative.
Have you heard of Olivia, the travel company for lesbians and LGBTQ plus women? You know what they say. Life is short and the world is wide. And when you're a lesbian or LGBTQ plus woman, you want to be able to go on vacation, have some fun, and be yourself. Olivia Travel creates full takeovers of their cruise, resort, riverboat, and adventure vacations, so you can relax and be completely yourself. Olivia also provides the entertainment, bringing comedians and musicians from within our community. Traveling by yourself? No problem. Olivia has a robust solos program so you can travel independently, together. Single, coupled, or in a group, you'll meet amazing LGBTQ plus women who come from all walks of life yet have so much in common. Join the thousands of Olivians who travel to bucket list destinations all over the world. It's life-changing to be in the majority on your own vacation. Discover Olivia for yourself at olivia.com today.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies just to see if you could save some cash? Well, Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states. It can be overwhelming to manage a business, especially when you're first starting out. Your to-do list just keeps growing every day with new tasks, and that list can easily begin to overrun your life. Finding the right tool not only helps you out, but can simplify problems you haven't even encountered yet. And for millions of businesses, that tool is Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world, and 10% of all e-commerce in the US, from household names like Mattel and Gymshark to brands just getting started. With hundreds of ready-to-use templates, Shopify can help you easily build a beautiful online store to match your brand style. And best yet, Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond. If you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. Turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/realm. Go to shopify.com/realm. Shopify.com/realm. When it comes to makeup, I'm a less is more kind of person. I wish I had the patience to do a full face all the time, but since that's just how I am, I always make sure that the few products I am using are the best quality. And my go-to place to find those holy grails is Thrive Causemetics. Thrive Causemetics makes certified 100% vegan and cruelty-free products that you can depend on for everything from simple daily wear to show-stopping self-expression. And it's all made with clean, skin-loving ingredients, high-performance and trademarked formulas, and uncompromising standards. And it's beauty that gives back. For every product purchased, Thrive Causemetics makes a donation towards 8 major causes, including those impacted by cancer, homelessness, and social justice organizations. It feels good knowing that I can support a company dedicated to giving back to causes that matter to me. And it doesn't hurt that I'm a huge fan of their Liquid Lash Extensions mascara. It comes in 5 shades that last all day without clumping, smudging, or flaking. I really love that it looks like lash extensions, but you don't have to deal with the damaging glue or salon prices. Plus, at the end of the day, it slides right off with warm water and a washcloth. No soap required. So there's no wonder why it has over 40,000 5-star reviews, including mine. Try your new trusty favorites with an exclusive set for our listeners. New customers can get the Liquid Lash Extensions mascara and a mini-sized brilliant eye brightener at a special set price with free shipping, available at thrivecosmetics.com/thrive. Or save more with 20% off your first order at thrivecosmetics.com/thrive. That's Thrive Cosmetics, CAUSEMETICS.com/thrive for 20% off your first order.
This message is sponsored by Greenlight. With school out, summer is the perfect time to teach our kids real-world money skills they'll use forever. Greenlight is a debit card and the #1 family finance and safety app used by millions of families, helping kids learn how to save, invest, and spend wisely. Parents can send their kids money and track their spending and saving, while kids build money confidence and skills in fun ways. Start your risk-free Greenlight trial today at greenlight.com/Spotify. That's greenlight.com/Spotify.
So how did you end up moving to P-Town?
My life kind of fell apart in multiple ways in Boston: relationship, job, sense of self. I needed a break. I wasn't doing well, and it was a really safe place for me. I am comfortable sharing this. Some people don't discuss in media 12-step stuff. I'm a member of Al-Anon, and I, over a vacation, went to an Al-Anon meeting in Provincetown and found a group of people I wanted to live like and be like, and the way they talked about their sobriety or their recovery was related to the sunrise and whales and walking on the beach. And so I think about who comes to Provincetown and why, and it's really easy assumption to think, oh, it's just for gay people. Not every gay person would like it here. Not every queer person makes it here. You know, there's harsh elements to being here, but the deeper you talk to somebody, you realize why they stay, and why I stay is the recovery community and what that includes. And for me, that includes the nature and the outdoors here. I'm more connected to people who live here because they like to see seals than I am who they like to have sex with. But I saw those people then and felt safe and felt like it's quiet in the winter. I could do some writing and move back on with my life after living here. And I moved for the winter and didn't know anybody.
Where did you stay?
I stayed. I just learned that Mary Trump used to own a bed and breakfast that was called Kensington Gardens that got condoized. This story about coming here is pretty profound to me. So,
oh my gosh, I'm excited.
So my life was awful. Honestly, on the verge of thinking about suicide. and not wanting to be near the people who loved me the most and wanting to be alone. But finding some glimmer of hope in those meetings made me come. And so in particular was on Thursday nights in Provincetown at 5:30. And I lived in and around Boston and didn't feel so safe staying by myself, so I would stay with my mom or a friend, and I kind of wanted to get out of people's hair too, so I every Thursday would drive from Boston to P-Town, do something like go to the beach or go for a walk, hear Womencrafts or to Recovering Hearts, go to the meeting, go see sunset, and go home. And that was doable. I like to drive. It was fine. But I started to see people that I could start to imagine. There was this woman, Bonnie, and I'm like, and she had a dog, and I love dogs. I'm like, maybe I could get brave enough to ask her if I could sleep over once. And I started to think about that, and then that felt a little too much. And so one day I'm like, you know what? Instead of driving, pay for a hotel for one night. And so I did that, but I didn't want to spend a lot of money going out to dinner, so I went to Stop and Shop. And when I went to Stop and Shop, I saw all these flyers for winter rentals. And coming from Boston and having fairly high rent there, I didn't know seasonal rentals. And at that time, so this is 2010, there were signs saying you could get a winter rental for $400 a month. And based on my limited income at that time, I could afford that. And I thought, holy shit, like the way I love Provincetown in the summer, who would think you could live here for $400 a month? So I came down on a Thursday for the meeting, and I set up 3 appointments to look at apartments. And one was a complete shithole that had this is what I came to learn about seasonal rentals, is that they stuff seasonal workers into small places. So I went to see this place that had about, I'm not kidding, 8 beds and no couch. And it was going to be $400 a month. And I'm looking around like, I don't even understand what this, I do understand now what that is. But I'm like, okay, my fantasy of living in Provincetown is
that's why it's so affordable.
Right. So I'm like, okay, never mind, you idiot. Like, you thought you could do this. This isn't right. And also telling myself you're not allowed to make a dangerous decision. So like, maybe the swish is wrong. And so I went to this meeting and I told people that I had been looking at places, but that maybe it wasn't going to work. And I went to watch the sunset at Herring Cove. And I don't believe in God, but I was sitting there and I'm like, if anybody gives a fuck about me and wants my life to be okay, like I need help. I need a sign. I need somebody to tell me this is going to be okay. And all of a sudden, I see seals swimming. And full admission, I am comfortable saying I am a woman with intelligence. And I am from Massachusetts. I had no idea seals were in Massachusetts. So I thought it was as though I asked for something and here came a unicorn. That's how crazy it was to me that there was a seal. So that's how big of a sign it was. And I started running down and you can look at me like I'm not a runner. I'm running down the beach. And all I remember is that there were 2 kids wearing Harvard sweatshirts. Everybody can wear a Harvard sweatshirt whether you go there or not. But it's specific to me that they had them on. I'm like, oh my God, do you see there's seals? Look at their seals. Oh my God. And I turned to them and I said, I'm going to move to Provincetown. And they're looking at me like, who are you? And so I had this moment like, okay, I'm moving to Provincetown. And I left and I was going to look at my last place.
Wait, but so the Harvard sweatshirts, like, is that significant to you because you know that
they were smart.
They know that seals are in Massachusetts.
Right. Like, give me a break. But like in my moment, like that dug in of like, so you f***ing idiot. Like I'm telling possibly like 1,600 SAT scorers that there's seals in Massachusetts.
So you need to uproot your life.
Yes. Oh my God, did you know there's squirrels? I live here now. Welcome, this is my home. I live where there are...
There's squirrels, I'm gonna move.
Totally. But I left that moment and I walked into the most beautiful apartment I've ever lived in.
How did you find... You had this one
that
lined
was
up,
on
like
the lineup.
One. Yeah.
Wow. And I moved to Provincetown.
That's so lucky.
This is not as true today as it was then, but because summer rentals are so expensive in Provincetown, people who buy property just to make that money in the summer, they really like people to live in them in the winter to keep the heat on so that the water and the pipes don't freeze. So they can afford to throw away money in the winter with rentals. I didn't know I was getting in on that deal, but that's how I got in. And once I lived here, I knew I couldn't live anywhere else.
So you like moved right away?
I came with 2 bags. I had left all of my stuff in a friend's basement. I never went back for it. I've just started my life from scratch with those 2 bags. Yeah.
You're serious. You're hardcore. When did you start working here?
I moved in November and I started working here in May. So what is also true about Provincetown, which doesn't make sense to a lot of people, is that many people are unemployed in the winter. I was unemployed for a different reason, but many people are unemployed. Like you're here during one of the last full-time working weeks for people. Restaurants lay people off, bars, all the clubs. So people are on unemployment and create their art and do their life.
But people get by, like they make enough in the summer.
They get by. I would tell anybody who thinks of Provincetown as a wealthy place, if you come in the winter, it's low-income people. And so like our soup kitchen serves over 100 meals a day. People support each other and help each other out and get by. But the amount of money somebody earns in a year in Provincetown, a lot of people need to earn that in about 12 weeks.
Yeah, that's crazy. So were you hanging around here a lot? And then how did you
I was in the shop that winter and I walked in and they were playing a song by Anja Duvakot, Pearls, that was a song that was significant to me in a relationship. And I started crying and I came over and the sections were a little bit different, but a Pema Chodron book, When Things Fall Apart, was here and I picked it up and I'm crying with my back to the owners. Catherine and Wendy were there and they were very kind to me that day. And they're like, honey, you can spend as much time as you want. You can come here anytime. And I'm like, oh, great. Are you open all winter? And they're like, oh, actually, no, but come back. And over that winter, they knew that they needed another employee for the summer. And that woman that I met when I first came and thought that maybe I could ask this woman if I could sleep at her house, I actually ended up becoming her roommate. And she's my very good friend, Bonnie. And I lived with her and her dog, Andy, later in the story. But they had reached out to her, asking her if she wanted to work at the shop. And she was retired and older. And she's like, no, I don't want to work at the shop. But you know who should is Michelle. She's like, I would trust Michelle with my dog, with my money, with my grandkids. And they're like, okay, you had us at dog. And so I came in here and I have a master's degree in a professional life, but I came in with a piece of paper because I lived here with nothing. I didn't have my things. So I wrote on a piece of paper like what I thought would be a Womencraft resume, not like a social work resume. And I wrote my favorite books, CDs, and
they were like, she had us at dog. Like,
right. You didn't have to like push so hard with all of this. But I started working for them that cool. summer. And what I loved about Provincetown on the daily basis is that I felt safe and protected and in awe of the beauty around here. And so like each day was a good day, but as a person in my early 30s at the time, I didn't know how the hell that could cobble together a life because I only knew about life like on an escalator, uphill climb or career ladders. And I was comparing myself to, I'm surrounded by very well-educated, intelligent, awesome women. And your 30s are not your time to stop. It's your time to go and to earn and have kids and do all of that.
So were you like early 30s?
Yeah, then I was 33.
When you moved here?
When I moved here, okay. I was 33. So to make the decision to try to figure out, I could live here as a very poor person, but how sustainable is that? And ego related to being just a person working in a store. My first summer here, a professor from grad school walked in and looked at me and was like, what the hell are you doing here? And I've been behind the counter and had therapists that were coworkers walk in. And one time I had a client walk in. And so what has changed for me is I don't diminish the importance and the intelligence required to do this job. And very soon after starting working here, I realized I wasn't a sales clerk. I was a social worker in the room. I wear that hat lots of places. And in Provincetown, you'll realize that your waiter is a lawyer and your bartender is a doctor, and they make more money bartending here than they did as a doctor. So they're fine. That
makes me so mad that people were looking at you some type of way about like these educated people of all people should understand.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah, that life looks different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we have things like
social workers. Like, what?
Oh, I could tell you some stories.
Damn.
And I just think like what moments in people's life can look like they're floundering. And the truth is that when I looked the most put together is when I was floundering. And when I live like this, I'm my most whole and authentic self. And that's okay that I'm the one that knows that.
Yeah, totally. You're the only one that has to. So then how did you end up taking over this place?
The owner of the shop, we worked together well and had the same kind of heart for the customer and mission-driven people. And I think she saw in me a person who could take over the reins. This isn't the type of shop that just could go on the retail market of like, hey, who wants to buy this store? Number one, it's not that profitable to be able to afford the space.
Yeah, you have to have the passion.
You have to want to do it. And Catherine couldn't, nor could I, sell it to somebody who wasn't, one of us, or, definitely somebody willing to be the next, shepherd of the space. I was as passionate about the shop as she was, and I think she saw, as her life was looking towards retirement, seeing that I could do it, which never seemed possible to me. Again, I'm admitting that I moved here without money. I come without resources. So when they confronted me or presented me with the option of buying, I just thought, you're idiots. Like, what? Somebody with no money and no credit and $100,000 in student loan debt, can't own something. And they really taught me about business and how to make that happen. And it was absolutely a struggle, and not for the lighthearted or people who really want to earn. But I believe in this place so much. And I bought the shop in 2015. And then the same people that sold me the shop also owned the whole building, and came to a point that they wanted to sell the building. And this shop could not afford rent in another spot in Provincetown. The reason they were so generous with low rent, but that took them owning the building to be able to offer that. And so it really only became feasible for the shop to live if I owned the building. I also live upstairs. I rented the apartment upstairs. So housing for me and housing for Womencrafts became so tied to the ownership of this building. And similar to buying the shop, I didn't all of a sudden not have that college loan debt, and I didn't all of a sudden have heaps of money to come forward. But the journey towards that included just being really vulnerable and putting it out to the community in a GoFundMe, that we had a limited time to do this. And in 11 days, we raised over $200,000.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Were you expecting something like that?
No. This also happened at a moment after some of the queer bar projects had happened, and the documentary, and
what year was it?
2022.
Okay. Very recent.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I knew that women's consciousness of losing our spaces was clear. The fact that in the 90s there were over 200 feminist bookstores, and now when I bought the shop, there were 12. There's now closer to 20. So I think people who watch that don't want to see it happen anymore, and you can bemoan the loss of something, or you can participate. I had moments of feeling like I'm asking people to give me money to make a business and make my home. But the truth is, I was asking for money to preserve a space that we all need. I'm not making money off of that. So there's a community who didn't want to lose dyke and women's spaces. And there's also the Provincetown community that does not want to lose one more building to Airbnb and one more place. This building has been occupied and owned by women for so long. And so I had enough knowledge that there was going to be help, but I really didn't fully imagine how great. And we had the mortgage for upstairs, but we needed to cobble together enough money for the basement and the rest of the shop. And I was kind of running into dead ends. And there are certain wealthy men in town that people know have done things to support other male businesses. And I kind of cold called people and was getting no response. I reached out to anybody I knew, and I knew that I could give up, but that it was possible.
This was after the GoFundMe?
Yeah, so Everybody was so celebratory after the GoFundMe. And meanwhile, what I'm not saying in all of this is that my now wife, Erin, part of what made it all possible, too, is that she sold her house where she lived to come and live here and be in this with me. So it is our journey and our building. And so it was coming to the end. People think we hit the finish line because the GoFundMe was such a success, but we knew we needed to figure this other part out. Down to the wire, we really needed $300,000. And that's who I was looking and knocking on doors for, and sitting on the front step. And women who had contributed greatly to the GoFundMe pulled up to say hi and introduce themselves and ask, so is it a done deal? Are you there? And I'm like, oh, almost. And I feel like they could see the defeat. And they're like, well, what else do you need? And I'm like, oh, and I wasn't really saying. And they asked in this different way. And I looked at them and I said, do you honestly want to know? And they said, yes. And I said, it's not going to happen if we don't come up with another $300,000. And they looked at each other and they looked back at me and they said, okay. And like within a week, we had worked out a contract of a loan repayment. You know, all of these people who are loans, we are paying back, and we're paying back with interest, but like very friendly terms and kindness with it. Just the generosity of spirit and belief in the shop.
Yeah.
This is all contingent on the shop. Even like our contingency for the people who loaned money to the basement is that money exists for the basement so long as Womencrafts continues. Not that we're selling it and flipping it into a condo or something, which we would never do. But I would put that contingency on somebody also. I have to say, lesbians helping one another and women helping each other financially is really emotional to me, and none of these women have made me feel shame or guilt or emotional about it. They're just honest that they have it and we don't, and it's their desire to be helpful in this community and in this way. And I hope to be that type of person in the world with what I don't have the money to offer you, but I hope within whatever is my skill set, I have it to offer in the ways that these women have. When you live in a small town, you realize if you see a lack of something, it's your job to fill it. Like you caught the hot potato. At least that's how I feel. So when I say, well, why isn't there, or who's supposed to do this? The answer is me, you know, and not in an egotistical way, but just like, don't bemoan the loss, fill the gap. I couldn't go to the first Women's March. I had a commitment here. And so I created one here. And I think every single person who lived on the Outer Cape was here that day. So we couldn't be in D.C., but that's a pretty big showing here, you know.
That's awesome.
For me in Provincetown, like the directive to activism and to those of us that have the privilege to live here is that we have visitors from all over the world who might only feel safe the 1 week of the year that they're in Provincetown. And they might look to Provincetown to say, like, well, that's a collective. Like, what one queer person can do is amazing, but what can a collective do? Particularly when Trump was elected, particularly at the beginning, every week we were protesting, having something in town, and it just became more natural. And I would look to my mom or friends and say, why do people expect it's going to be me that's doing that? And I had to be honest, because I have been. And so, like, they're not wrong that it's me that's going to do something. Ever since I've lived here, I've been worried, how do I get to stay? Who do I get to be? There's one or two people who do everything. And when I moved here, there was a woman who ran an organization called Helping Our Women. And I'm like, that she already exists. Like, that's who I would be. So what's going to be my thing? And when it became true that Womencrafts could be my thing, I could see longevity for myself, which I hadn't been for so long able to see.
Thank you to our sponsor, Olivia Travel, the travel company for lesbians and LGBTQ+ women. If you like this episode, please consider leaving us a 5-star review. It really helps others discover our podcast. Cruising is produced by a small but mighty team of 3 queer women, Rachel Karp, Jen McGinnity, and me, your host and editor, Sarah Gabrielli. Our theme song is by Joey Friedman. You can find us on social media at CruisingPod and on the web at www.cruisingpod.com. Support us at buymeacoffee.com/cruisingpod.
Does music really have the power to heal? How can you instantly be more persuasive? What would the world be like if there were no bugs? These are the kind of topics we explore in every episode of my podcast called Something You Should Know. My name is Mike Carruthers, and what we do on Something You Should Know is we find leading experts and curate topics that will impact your life, satisfy your curiosity, or simply fascinate you, maybe all of the above. Out of all the millions of podcasts in the universe, Something You Should Know is usually ranked in the top 200 of all podcasts on Apple. A lot of people like Something You Should Know, and I'm willing to bet you will too. We deliver 3 episodes a week and have a catalog of over 1,000 shows for you to listen to. Give a listen to Something You Should Know, wherever you get your podcasts.
Look, we all know there are a lot of celebrity interview podcasts out there, but there's only one, Happy, Sad, Confused. I'm Josh Horowitz, and yeah, I'm the host of the show, so I'm a little biased, but truly Happy, Sad, Confused is the place for nerdy and intimate conversations with all your favorite actors and filmmakers. from Andrew Garfield and Scarlett Johansson to Christopher Nolan and Quentin Tarantino. For over 10 years and over 700 episodes, Happy, Sad, Confused has broken movie and TV news every single week. That's because I ask all the questions I want to know, and more importantly, you want to know. Casting what-ifs, backstage stories, acting pet peeves, and much more. So whether you're into superheroes, prestige TV, or just the coolest actors and directors alive, you're going to learn something in every episode. Listen to Happy, Sad, Confused on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.